Hey everyone, welcome to Adventures in Everyday Cooking, where every day can be an adventure in your kitchen. My name is Heather, and this video is debuting a couple of the brand new products from Pampered Chef Spring Summer 2023. We're going to go over the brand new Tart Pan, the Stone Fruit Wedger, and the Cup Slicer. Now we're also going to make a recipe. We're actually going to make a wonderful quiche that I have made for many years now, and it is so delicious. And I thought I would share it with you while I show you these brand new products. So if you're ready for this adventure and you want to make a quiche with me, here's what you're going to need. For the crust, you're going to need 1 large egg, 2½ tablespoons of ice water, 1 1/2 cups of all-purpose flour, ½ a teaspoon of salt, and 10 tablespoons of unsalted butter cut into cubes. For the quiche itself, you're going to need 10 eggs, 1 tablespoon of flour, 1/4 teaspoon of baking powder, 1 stick of melted butter, ½ cup of cottage cheese, 2 cups of shredded cheese, 1 can or 6 ounces of diced green chilies, 1 cup of sausage, and salt and pepper. All right, let's go ahead and get our crust together before we start talking about these products. So in my food processor, we're going to add our flour, our salt, and our egg. We're then gonna give this a couple quick pulses. All right, and now we're gonna start adding our cold butter, 1 chunk at a time while pulsing. If you don't have a food processor but want to make this recipe, you can totally just cut this together by hand, but I have a food processor, so I love to utilize it. All right, once you see it look like sand, a very sandy texture, you are now ready to add your very cold ice water. Oh, the other thing I wanted to mention is I actually used salted butter in this recipe instead of unsalted, so I decreased the salt, 1/4 teaspoon for every cup of salted butter that I use. All right, so let's add our ice water while we pulse. And you're gonna see this pull together into the dough real quick. All right, and once you see that dough all to one side of the food processor, that's it, we're done. Easy, easy to make your own pastry if you have a Breville. As we all know, this isn't a Breville advertisement, I just love it. All right, so let's go ahead and dump our dough right onto our pastry mat. If you don't have a pastry mat, you just have to use a well-floured surface so that it doesn't stick. I'm actually gonna use some more flour on top of this, but for the moment, I'm just gonna put it on my pastry mat. And we're just gonna push this all together. I'm gonna put a little bit of salt down here, and I'm just gonna bring this together just a little bit with my hands, and then we're gonna push it down. Salt it again. Salt. Did I say salt? Flour. Flour it again. And then we're just gonna get it rolled out. Now, before we get it rolled out, let's figure out what size we need to roll it out. Well, the size of this brand new Tart Pan from Pampered Chef. Now, you guys, I just did a Bakewell tart. I did not know that Pampered Chef was coming out with a new Tart Pan, or else I would have waited to make the Bakewell tart until today. But instead, we're gonna do a quiche because this pan is the pan that I've been waiting for, because non-stick, this lovely blue, and you ready for this? Ready? Bum, bum, bum. Yeah. And if that wasn't good enough, we have a lid. Boom. Here's a lid, fits right over the top, which means my Bakewell tart can just sit there and it's covered and it's beautiful, and I am so excited about this. I already have another one of these pans on order. I am so excited about this pan. This is one of those things that just makes me so excited. The other thing that I noticed is that, you know how when you bring it to a potluck or whatever, and you bring the lid with you and sometimes you lose the lid, it actually sits down inside so that you won't lose your lid. I love it. I think it's amazing. So this is the brand new Tart Pan. Brand new for 2023. March 1st cannot come fast enough for the rest of you. I know it's already March 1st by the time you see this. So I don't know what I'm saying. Just go out, go get yourself one. If you don't have a consultant and you want one of these Tart Pans that are absolutely fantastic, let me know. I'll leave a link. Okay, so I started to say, let's figure out what size we need. So this tart pan is an 8-inch tart pan. So we're gonna make sure that we go at least to 9 inches. I'm sorry, at least to 10 inches, if not 11 inches with this crust. I think that this is enough crust for 2 tart pans, which is why I need a second tart pan, but this was my crust recipe and I couldn't remember if it was 1 or 2, but now I'm looking at it and I'm like, whoa, that's 2. So that's fine. So what we're gonna do is we're going to roll it out very gently. It's very easy to roll this dough because it is just a great dough to work with. And putting it together in your food processor really is pretty fascinating and makes it very easy. So I'm just gonna make sure that it goes all out to about 11 inches and that everything is even. And this is definitely a 2 crust recipe, so make note of that. All right, so I'm gonna take my tart pan, I'm gonna lay my crust over the top, pick it up and drop it down in. And then we are going to gently push it into all of the corners. Now this pan is non-stick, so you should not have to oil it at all. But if you are afraid of your crust sticking, or if say you are doing a gluten-free crust, which always sticks, definitely just save your sanity and grease your pan. All right, and now I'm gonna trim off the sides. Now I'm actually going to trim it large because, as maybe you know or don't know, crusts like this will shrink. And so I want to kind of leave a little bit out there so that when it shrinks in, it still looks like a whole pie. Does that make sense? All right, that looks fantastic. Now what we're gonna do is I'm gonna cut some holes in the bottom of this crust just so that when it cooks, it won't puff up. Usually you use a fork, but since my knife is already out, I'm just gonna use a knife. All right, now I'm gonna get this into the freezer for 20 minutes. All right, while that crust is in the freezer, let's go ahead and get together our quiche itself. So I have my eggs and we're just gonna whisk them all together in the bowl. I'm gonna add in my melted butter, my salt and pepper. Now I think when I was reading the recipe, I said just salt and pepper. Usually it's about 1/2 to 1 teaspoon of salt and 1/4 to 1/2 of pepper. But I never like to give like exact numbers because some people like a little more salt and some people like a little less. So I think on the recipe, it actually has that sliding scale of 1/2 to 1 and then 1/4 to 1/2. I'm using salted butter, so I was at the lower end of the scale, but if you're not using salted butter, then you would want to be on the higher end of that scale. All right, I'm also gonna go ahead and add our flour and our baking powder. So go ahead and get that in there and we're gonna get it mixed up really well. And we're just gonna mix until we don't see any of that flour left over. And it won't completely like mix together very well, but this is gonna help it set up later. Those of you who are gluten-free, if you have a gluten-free crust recipe or you buy one at the store, you can use gluten-free flour in this step. This just helps the texture of the eggs in your quiche. All right, looks great. Next, I'm gonna add all of our green chilies. Give that a good mix. All of our cottage cheese. And now that I'm looking at this, my recipe is definitely for 2. 1 cup of sausage going in also. And then all but like a small bit of cheese. So we're gonna add like most of the cheese and I'll leave a little bit just to sprinkle on the tops because I like the cheese to kind of sit on the top and get real brown, but you definitely don't have to do that. You can just mix it all in and it will be just as delicious. Okay, that mixture is ready to go. So let's set that off to the side and let's get on to the next thing. Let's talk about the new cup slicer from Pampered Chef. Oh my goodness, you guys. This is gonna be such a fun one to use and utilize in my kitchen all the time. It is for soft foods only, so don't cut things like onions or nuts or anything like that. but you want to do like strawberries or olives or tomatoes. We're gonna do some tomatoes and olives because we like the tomatoes with the quiche, the olives just because they're fun. So this is the cup slicer. It has the knives just like the quick slice has. And the base fits right over the top like this. So if you're doing a lot of things that roll away, like for instance, if you want them all to kind of sit in one spot, you could definitely just do that. But I want to show you, before I show you that, I want to do my olives, then tomatoes, because tomatoes are a little more juicy than olives and it will be easier for me to go on to the next thing after showing you. So the reason I think this is such a cool and little handy tool is when we need to slice our olives. You know, you take your knife and you're like, okay, here we go. Slice, slice, slice. And then you get all of your olives sliced, you know, very nicely, but it takes a long time. With the cup slice, are you ready for this? This is so fun. I've already done it once because I had to test it out. But you're gonna take your olives and you're just gonna go push. Make sure they're actually in there. Push, and they're not rolling away. Push, push. There we go. And you guys, all of my olives are sliced. Look at this. In next to no time. Isn't that amazing? All right, I can see this being utilized for a lot of things. Banana, strawberry, like when you're making a truffle or something like that, you need your fruit cut up really quickly in slices. This is gonna be perfect for that. So now we're going to take our tomatoes and we're gonna do the same thing. Now because I want the tomatoes sliced in a certain direction, I'm gonna pay attention to how I push them down so that I get the right, these are very juicy tomatoes too. So I get the right slices every time. And there you go. Look at all of these slices of tomatoes. Isn't that fantastic? Yeah. They're a little juicy, but what are you gonna do? And then anything that's stuck in the bottom, just put on your base, clip through, and they're all out. This is gonna be a fun little tool for a lot of things. If you are a Pampered Chef person, what can you see yourself doing with this? And for the price that it is, this is a keeper. I am gonna really enjoy using this over the next couple of years. And that's what I like about Pampered Chef stuff, is that it's going to last for years and years and years. And I'll find multiple ways to use it, and it's gonna be fantastic. And the next item we're gonna talk about is the new Stone Fruit Wedger. Okay, here is a transparency moment for you. When this came in my box, I was like, oh good, another slicer. Like we have all the different slicers for all of the different things. And I was like, why do I need another slicer? I mean, whatever. And then I used it. And then my husband used it. And he has since used it every day since it arrived at our house. Because as the name Stone Fruit Wedger says, it wedges your stone fruit. And what's stone fruit? Peaches, plums, nectarines, pluots. You guys, if you do a lot of pie, or if you just like to eat nectarines as much as our family does, this thing is a must-have. Over on my Patreon, I gave them a full look at all of the new products, and I was like, oh, okay, I don't know. I'm not that sure about this. If you do a lot of pies, sure you need it, but otherwise I probably wouldn't have bought it myself. I've changed my mind. This is a nice product. It works well. It's amazing, and I am glad that I have it in my life. So the base here has a nice little indenture where it tells you that's where you want to put your stone fruit. You're gonna wanna make sure that the top and the bottom of the oval are even with the seam of your peach or your nectarine or your plum. That indicates the way the pit is ovaled. So it will go right on just like that. Then you're going to line up your stone fruit wedger right over the top, and you're just going to push. Look at that. So now we're gonna push it upwards until we hear a click, and here are all of our beautiful nectarine or peach slices. What? I didn't think I was gonna like this as much as I do, and I like it a lot. So let's do it again. I'll just cut these for my husband. He'll so love them because he's been eating them like they were going out of style, and it makes it so easy and accessible for him because he works from home, and if he wants a peach or a nectarine during the day, it's really hard to eat and do his work because they're so messy. But if they're sliced, then he can eat them very easily and the mess doesn't get everywhere. So here we go, ready? Pink. Amazing. The stone fruit wedger, everybody needs one. If you eat any stone fruits at all, or if you make a lot of pies, must have. This would cut, pun intended, this would cut the time in the kitchen doing peaches and nectarines in a tenth because I just did 2 of them and it's done, all done. And you could peel them if you were needing peeled stuff, you could peel them first before you did that, or you just peel them afterwards and just peel them right off. So awesome, right? And both of these dishwasher safe. Woo, woo. All right, we have about 2 minutes until our 20 minutes of the freezer crust is gonna be up. So go ahead and get your oven preheated to 400 degrees. All right, out comes our crust in the tart pan. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna wad up our parchment because it makes it easier to fit into all the places. We are gonna put it in there. If you have baking beans, you can definitely just fill this with baking beans. I don't have enough baking beans to do this, so Dane Pemberton over at Crumbs and Doilies said to use sugar, and I was like, why have I never thought about that before? He got the tip from no other than Erin Jean McDowell over at Food 52. So I love me some Erin Jean McDowell, and I don't remember her saying that, but Dane said it, Erin said it, now I'm saying it, let's use some sugar. The reason sugar is nice to use is because sugar will actually fill into all the places and won't let the crust puff up at all. And it heats more evenly. So we're gonna use some sugar and it's gonna be great. All right, we're gonna get this in for a blind bake for 10 minutes. At the end of 10 minutes, I'm going to scoop the parchment out of this, continue to bake for another 5-10 minutes or until it's just starting to get lightly golden brown, and then we're gonna fill it and get it in again. All right, we're getting it in. See you in a bit. All right, my crust did indeed shrink just a little bit. So as you can see, it's a good thing that I left it a little wider so that whenever it cooked, it went just to the right spot. Now we are going to drop the temperature in the oven to 350 and we're gonna get this filled up. So one of the other products that I wanted to highlight is the brand new extra large scoop from Pampered Chef. If you are a fan of the scoops, you know how much we have needed an extra large scoop for a very long time. So I am so grateful that we have it now. And I'm gonna use the scoop so that I don't make such a mess when I transfer it over to this side. And we're just gonna take scoops of this. Somehow you're just gonna get it into your par-baked crust. Now, you will notice that this is not a completely baked crust. I just wanted it to be baked enough so that when I put my filling in, it didn't have to try too hard and I wouldn't get a soggy bottom because no one wants a soggy bottom. So we're just gonna fill it up to about probably 3/4 of the way full, maybe halfway, because it will expand a little bit. So that looks good. So see how there's still some crust right showing up on the edges? That's about all that we're gonna wanna put in there. And now we're gonna top with a little bit of that extra cheese that we reserved back. Remember, this is for 2. So make sure that you have enough to go on your second one. All right, once you've topped it with your remaining cheese, we're gonna go ahead and get it into that 350 oven for 20-ish minutes or until it is set. You'll see a little bit of a jiggle, but it shouldn't jiggle like it's raw. So into the oven, that's gonna go. And you'll want to peek at it probably about the 15-minute mark just to make sure that your crust isn't getting too brown. If for some reason your crust is getting too brown, you can cover it with some foil or a pie crust shield. That way it can continue to bake and be finished. Okay, so I'm going to show you another pan that Pampered Chef came out with that has a lid. You guys, this is the 8-inch square pan with lid, and it's that Tiffany blue color, just like the other pans are. And I absolutely love this color. I love everything about this pan. I use this pan a lot. This size pan I use a lot in my kitchen, and I appreciate that it has a locking lid. I really, really do. I love lids, and I appreciate that they nestle together so they'll always be together in my cupboard. I love this pan so much that I did indeed already order a second one. So I will have two so that when I do any square recipes in the future, you will probably see them in this bad boys. So we're gonna use that actually. I've already used it for one thing, but not in a video. So we're gonna use it to put the rest of our mixture in and bake it up as if it had a crust. I could grab that crust out of the, no, it's fine. I'm gonna leave the crust in there for another day. So you don't have to spray your pan because they are non-stick, but I'm gonna go ahead and give mine a little spray because these eggs tend to be a little bit stickier than most baked goods. It's because they're eggs. We're gonna pour all the rest of this quiche right into this pan. And then we're gonna use the reserved cheese to sprinkle over the top. And this guy's gonna go in for 20 minutes. Welcome back, everybody. Our quiche is out of the oven, and look how fantastic it looks. Oh, I just love some quiche. Okay, so I wanted to show you how to get it out of the pan now. The pan is still very warm, so I'm gonna use my oven gloves to lift it out. So because the bottom of this tart pan comes out, this should come out very easily and beautifully. Ready? Dun, dun, dun. Look at how beautiful that is. So let's just stick a small little spatula. Oh yeah, it'll come off. I just need all of my hands for it. Let's see how hot it is. Oh, that's not too bad. So let's go ahead and grab a hold of it. There we go. Usually you would want to cool your tart just a little bit longer before moving it, but ain't nobody got time for that. Check that out. Isn't that cute? That is amazing. Now imagine your own fillings in this and your tart, just saying, this is fantastic. You do want to let it cool for at least 5 minutes before you slice into it. That way the eggs have a chance to firm up the rest of the way. This did take about 25 minutes in our oven. The square one is just about done. So, are you ready to dig into this and see what's inside? Let's go. Okay, here we go. Dun, dun, dun. Bum, 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 bum. Look at that. Look at that. Yes, looks amazing. We're gonna slide it right onto our plate. And oh man, I almost feel like the pastry at the bottom is a little soggy. My bad. When I was cooking it, I probably should have left it in another 5 minutes, but I was a little worried that my crust was gonna get too dark. But I am going to just let you know that you should probably par bake it for the 10 minutes with the parchment inside of it with the baking beans, and then the full 10 minutes to make sure that crust is nice and dry. It's cooked, it's just a little soggy, but that's okay. It's gonna taste delicious. Ready? All right, here we go. Small bites, Heather. I love quiche. Everything about this quiche is what I want in a quiche. The two kinds of cheese, the cottage cheese and the Colby Jack, are perfect because they give you two different textures and all of that creaminess with the butter. Oh man. The green chilies are a surprise. When I first started putting green chilies in my quiches, I was a little worried that green chilies might be off-putting to my kids. And no one seems to have noticed that green chilies went in their quiches. And I don't know, I love them. I haven't gotten a soggy bit at all. In fact, let me cut another piece because I was ready for some soggy, but I think it just is a little pale. Yeah, look at that. No soggy bottoms. Woohoo! If you're not making quiche at home, You should. And you should pick yourself up the new Tart Pan from Pampered Chef, available March 1st. It's amazing. And if you didn't take it out like I did, because I obviously wanted it to look nice, you could just store it with the lid like this. Now, I will mention, you definitely do not want to use any sharp objects inside the pan because you don't want to scratch the coating on this pan. So it's probably a good idea that you get it out anyway, but the new products from Pampered Chef are pretty fantastic. So, Tart Pan with lid, extra large scoop, the cup slicer, stone fruit wedger, and coming out of the oven right now, the 8-inch square pan with lid. There we go. Now we have a crustless quiche to enjoy the rest of the week. All right, you guys. Well, that's it for me. I know that was more than 3 products, but I just got too excited and had to share with you a few more. If you enjoyed that video, give it a like, share it with your friends, and subscribe to my channel. I do videos several times a week, and right now I'm popping in the new products wherever I can, so I hope you'll stay tuned and see all the new things that are out there. In fact, you may have already seen another one in that last video. I don't know, you're just gonna have to go check it out. All right, you guys, we'll see you on the next adventure.